What if the world you think you know is only a shadow? What if everything you see, every object, every person, every moment is just a thin slice of a much larger reality? And what if humans were never meant to see it? Right now, you live in 3 dimensions. Length, width, height. You move forward, backward, left, right, up, and down. Your brain is perfectly evolved to survive in this limited space. But the universe may not be so limited. Welcome to Information World, where we explore ideas that challenge reality itself. Imagine this. You are a 2-dimensional being living on a flat sheet of paper. Your world has only length and width. No height. You can move left or right, forward or backward, but up does not exist. Now imagine a 3-dimensional being, us, reaching down and touching your world. From the perspective of the flat being, something impossible happens. A dot suddenly appears out of nowhere. Then the dot grows into a line. Then it becomes a square. Then it shrinks, and disappears. To the flat being, this is magic. To us, it's simply geometry. Now ask yourself a terrifying question. What if humans are the flat beings of a higher dimensional universe? The 4th dimension is often misunderstood. Some say it is time. Others say it is space beyond space. But in physics and mathematics, the 4th spatial dimension is something far stranger. It is a direction you cannot point to. A movement your body cannot perform. A dimension your eyes were never designed to perceive. If humans could suddenly see the 4th dimension, reality would not become clearer. It would become horrifying. Objects would no longer look solid. A closed box would appear open from impossible angles. Walls would lose their meaning. Privacy would cease to exist. You wouldn't just see the outside of things. You would see the inside at the same time. A human body would no longer be a surface. You would see organs, bones, blood flow, all layered and intersecting in impossible ways. Not because the skin vanished, but because the skin was never a barrier to begin with. Now imagine looking at a cube. In 3 dimensions, a cube is simple. 6 faces. 12 edges. 8 corners. But in 4 dimensions, the equivalent of a cube is called a tesseract. A tesseract is not just a cube inside a cube. That is only its shadow in 3-dimensional space. If you could truly see a tesseract, your brain would struggle to interpret it. Edges would fold into themselves. Surfaces would intersect without touching. The object would appear to rotate through itself. It wouldn't look stable. It would look alive. Your brain evolved to recognize predators, food, and shelter. Not hyperdimensional geometry. Seeing the 4th dimension could overload the mind. Depth perception would no longer stop at surfaces. You would perceive layers beyond layers. Distances would become meaningless. You might look at a room and feel infinite space compressed into a finite area. Or worse, you might feel trapped inside something much larger than you. But the terror doesn't stop with vision. If humans could move in the 4th dimension, causality itself might break. Imagine being able to step around an object without going left, right, up, or down. You simply move, elsewhere. Locked doors would be useless. Prisons would not work. Even the inside of the earth could be accessed without digging. But movement in higher dimensions could also mean something darker. You might enter spaces that overlap with ours but are not part of our reality. Spaces where physics behaves differently. Where time does not flow the way we expect. Now consider this. What if consciousness already exists partially in a higher dimension? Your thoughts do not occupy space. Your imagination has no shape. Memories are not stored like objects. Some physicists and philosophers speculate that consciousness may be a projection from higher dimensional processes. If that were true, seeing the 4th dimension might mean seeing thoughts. Not metaphors. Actual structures of intention, memory, and identity. You might see emotions as shapes. Fear as distortion. Love as connection. And trauma, as fractures. This could explain why the human brain hides so much from itself. Your mind filters reality aggressively. You do not see ultraviolet light. You do not hear ultrasonic frequencies. You do not feel magnetic fields. Not because they don't exist, but because they would overwhelm you. The 4th dimension could be the ultimate filter. Now think about time. Although physicists often treat time as the 4th dimension, it behaves very differently from space. You move freely in space. You move helplessly in time. But if the fourth spatial dimension exists, time might be something else entirely. From a higher dimensional perspective, your entire life could be visible at once. Birth, childhood, adulthood, death. All laid out like a path. If humans could see the fourth dimension, you might see your past and future as fixed structures. Not memories. Not predictions. But geometry. That would destroy free will or redefine it completely. You might see yourself making choices before you consciously decide. You might see consequences before actions. And that knowledge could paralyze you. Or worse, it could make you indifferent. Now imagine society under these conditions. Art would change completely. Paintings would no longer be flat or sculptural, they would be hyperforms. Architecture would collapse as a concept. Buildings would be designed across dimensions, not floors. Language itself would fail. How do you describe something that intersects itself without touching? How do you explain a direction that has no word? Religion would shatter or evolve. Many religious concepts already sound like higher dimensional descriptions. Angels appearing and disappearing. God existing outside time. Souls passing through realities. If humans could see the fourth dimension, ancient myths might stop being symbolic and start looking literal. But here is the most terrifying implication. Predators. If higher dimensions exist, there could be entities that move through them naturally. To us, they would appear suddenly. Disappear instantly. Pass through matter effortlessly. We would call them gods. Or demons. Or hallucinations. But to them, we might be simple shapes. Just like flat beings on paper. They could observe us without being seen. Interact without being touched. Influence without being detected. And if humans suddenly gained fourth-dimensional perception, we might finally notice them. That realization alone could break civilizations. Now consider evolution. Why would nature hide such a dimension from us? Because survival requires limitation. A gazelle does not need to understand quantum mechanics. A human does not need to perceive infinity. Seeing the fourth dimension might make it impossible to function. You would hesitate before every movement, overwhelmed by possibility. You would lose focus, seeing too much at once. Your mind would drown in information. Madness would not be a disorder. It would be the default. Perhaps this is why psychedelics sometimes produce hyperdimensional visions. People report seeing impossible geometry, infinite depth, beings beyond space. Maybe those substances don't create illusions. Maybe they remove filters. And maybe the brain panics when it sees what it was never meant to process. Now ask yourself this final question. If humans could see the fourth dimension, would it be enlightenment? Or would it be extinction? Reality might not be hiding secrets from us out of cruelty. It might be protecting us. Because knowledge without limits can destroy meaning. And perception without boundaries can erase identity. The universe may be far richer than we can imagine. But imagination itself might be the safest window we have. This is Information World. If you're ready to question reality, perception, and existence itself, subscribe and keep exploring the dimensions beyond sight.